Let me ask you something straight up. When was the last time you had a real fight with your wife? I'm not talking about hands, and certainly not talking about little disagreements. I'm talking about those conflicts where the temperature rises, words get sharp, feelings get hurt, and you're both convinced by the end, the other one's kind of an idiot. Here's the deal. If you're married and you say never, you're either lying or you've been married for about 10 minutes, because conflict is coming. The question isn't if you'll face it, it's when. And more importantly, how you'll handle it. Today, we're talking about resolving family conflict, both with your wife and with your kids. No fluff, no feel-good therapy talk, just biblical, practical truth that actually works. And guys, before the day's over, I'm going to give you 3 takeaways that you can start using right now. My name's Steve, and this channel is about equipping men to lead their families with strength and wisdom. I'm a pastor, a husband, a dad, and a part-time YouTuber, so whether you came over from my main channel, Crossthread Garage and Salvage, or you found me organically, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you'll give me the opportunity to win your trust. Now, before we go any further, if this is your first time here, do me a favor, would you? Hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel exists to help you become the man that God called you to be. And I drop a new video every week, so don't miss it. Subscribe now. All right, well, let's talk conflict. Here's what I used to say when I would perform a wedding, even though in Colorado it was a self-solemnizing state. So basically, as long as you had 2 witnesses and a rock, you could claim to be married. What I would say, though, is marriage is a covenant between 2 sinners. You're a sinner, she's a sinner. You put 2 sinners under the same roof, sharing the same bank account, raising kids together, and guess what happens? Conflict. And dads, your kids, they're sinners too. Little adorable sinners who are going to test every ounce of patience that you've got. But here's the good news. God didn't leave us without a blueprint for managing all of this. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27 says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity to the devil." Notice that Paul there doesn't say, don't get angry. He says, be angry and do not sin. Anger itself isn't always the problem. It's what you do with it. And men, when we let anger fester, when we go to bed with unresolved conflict, we're handing Satan a foothold in our homes. That's not leadership. That's negligence. Now let's start with your marriage, because if this relationship isn't right, nothing else in your home will be. Early in my marriage, I determined that I was going to resolve conflict the way that I had seen it resolved elsewhere. And that was through asserting strongly my positions, raising my voice to affirm that actually I am right and I have the authority in this matter. And I learned pretty quickly that was not the way that my wife appreciated being talked to. And actually, it made conflict considerably worse. And so, what she and I did early on was agree on some rules for when we would argue. Number 1, nobody raises their voice. Number 2, if we could, we found a place to sit down so we could look each other in the eye and talk reasonably. Number 3, we agreed never to bring up past failures, past wrongs, and past opportunities to have heard the other one say, you were right. Those 3 rules have served us pretty well over the past 21 years. The truth is, guys, you can either choose to fight for your marriage or you can fight in your marriage. And if you're going to fight for it, you'd better have some agreement about the rules. When conflict comes, and it will, you've got to remember your role here, guys. You're not her peer in a business dispute. You're not her opponent in a debate. You are the head of your home. And truthfully, your head would never say to your heart the kind of cruel, hateful, hurtful things that some of you have said to your wife. Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Christ didn't die for a church that had it all put together. He died for a church that was broken, rebellious, and messy. Your job is to love your wife sacrificially, even if and when she's wrong, even if you're frustrated, and even when you feel disrespected. Here's practical takeaway number 1. Own your part first. Before you point out what she did wrong, ask yourself, where did I fail here? Was I not listening? Did I speak too harshly? Did I dismiss her feelings? James 1:19 tells us, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Most marital conflict escalates because we do the exact opposite. We're quick to speak, slow to hear, and fast to anger. Men, you want to diffuse conflict fast? start with, I was wrong about, or I should have. Humility disarms pride, and pride escalates quickly. Here's something critical. Don't try and resolve major conflict when emotions are at a 10. Sometimes the most mature thing that you can do is say, I'm going to need 20 minutes to cool down so I can think clearly and love you well. That's not avoidance, it's wisdom. But you must come back to it. Remember Ephesians 4. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Resolve it that day. And here's what I want you to understand about marital conflict. Most fights aren't really about what you think they're about. She's not actually mad about the dishes. You're not actually frustrated about dinner. There's something deeper. Feeling unheard, feeling unappreciated, feeling disconnected or disrespected. Here's the practical takeaway number 2. Get to the heart of the issue. When you're in conflict with your wife, stop arguing about the surface stuff and ask, what's really going on here? What are we really talking about? Sometimes you need to pause the argument and say, will you help me understand what you're really feeling? Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5 says, the purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Guys, your wife's heart is deep water. Your job as her husband is to draw it out. What's really happening here? Not to win the argument, but to understand her soul. And that takes patience. It takes intentionality. It takes sacrificially dying to self. And men, sometimes the heart issue is your pride. Sometimes you're fighting because you can't stand being wrong. You can't stand feeling disrespected. You can't stand not being in control. And that's not leadership. It's insecurity masquerading as strength. Now, let's talk about conflict in your family with kids. And I'm going to approach this differently than just how to manage your relationship with your kids, because I did a whole video recently on seeking your kids' forgiveness. If you haven't watched that, go check it out after this. Today, I want to talk about teaching your kids how to resolve their own conflict, because they're watching you and they're learning from every interaction. You have to understand your relationship with your wife is a pattern for them. So, number 3, teach your kids the Matthew 18 principle. Matthew 18:15 says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Now, in that context, it's instruction for what to do with people in the church, but this isn't just for adults. This is a principle that you need to be training your kids from the time that they can talk. When your kids come to you tattling about their siblings, don't just jump in and start refereeing. Stop and ask, did you talk to your sister about this first? Did you tell her how it made you feel? You're teaching them that conflict resolution starts with direct, personal, humble communication, not running to authority figures to solve everything for them. Now, obviously, there are safety issues and times when they need to come to you immediately. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the everyday sibling squabbles where they want you to be the enforcer instead of learning how to work it out themselves. I'm talking about the arguments that your dad used to say, don't make me pull this car over. You know what I'm talking about. And here's what it looks like practically. When your kids are in conflict, bring them together, have them sit face to face, and guide them through it. Caitlin, tell your sister what she did that hurt you. Use your words. Gracie, did you hear what your sister said? How do you think that made her feel? What can you do to make this right? You're not ignoring the conflict. You're not minimizing it. You're actually shepherding them through the process of resolution. You're teaching them communication, empathy, repentance, and forgiveness in real time. And dads, this can be exhausting. It's way easier to just yell, stop fighting, and walk away. But it doesn't train them, it just silences them. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Training takes time. It takes repetition. Training means you're involved, present, and intentional, even when it's inconvenient. And here's the beauty. When your kids learn to resolve conflict biblically with each other, they're learning skills that will serve them in marriage and relationships with friends, in the workplace, and in the church for the rest of their lives. You're not just raising kids. You're raising future husbands, future wives, future parents, future community members, future leaders, future church members, what you're teaching them now about conflict will echo into eternity. Now, here's what ties all of this together. It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Every conflict in your home is ultimately about sin, yours, hers, and theirs. The only solution to that sin is Jesus Christ. You can't resolve conflict in your home without the gospel at the center of it, because without forgiveness, real, genuinely costly forgiveness, you're just managing behavior. You're not seeing hearts transformed. When you stand before your wife or your child after conflict, you're showing them a picture of the gospel. You're showing them what God did for you. He forgave you when you were his enemy. He pursued you when you were rebellious. He loved you at your worst. And this is how you're supposed to love them. Colossians 3:13 says, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. The standard isn't forgive when they deserve it. The standard is forgive as the Lord forgave you. And how did he forgive you? Completely, freely, sacrificially. Conflict isn't the problem in your home. It's the opportunity. The opportunity to display grace, to practice forgiveness, and to point everyone to Jesus. All right, now let's review those 3 takeaways. Number 1, own your part first, especially with your wife. Be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Number 2, get to the heart of the issue. Stop arguing about surface stuff. Draw out what's really going on. And number 3, teach your kids the Matthew 18 principle. Train them to resolve conflict directly and biblically. Guys, if you put these into practice starting today, you will see transformation in your home. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily by God's grace. Now, if this helped you, do me a favor. Hit that like button and share this with another dad or husband who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, what are you waiting for? We're building a community of men here who refuse to just coast through life and marriage. So subscribe and join us. And here's my challenge for you this week. Identify one area of unresolved conflict in your home. Maybe it's with your wife, maybe it's between your kids, but take the first step. Own your part, go to the heart, teach the process. Your family is watching, so lead them well. I'll see you next week. Now get out there and be the man that God called you to be.